Here's a couple of our objectives that I wanted to go over. This is about a 7-slide presentation, so I'll go into depth on some of the stuff that's on each slide, but I want you guys to be able to ask me questions. So if something pops in your head, feel free to ask me a question, and I can answer it for you as long as I have the information. So some of our objectives is to identify current issues with cell phones and social media, as well as discuss current social media platforms and common methods of communication on each of them. We can discuss parental control apps available to parents and features that are available on each of them, as well as identify conversations that parents can have with their children about the possible consequences of inappropriate phone use. That's a really big topic that I want to address because with a lot of the law changes that we've seen pertaining to juveniles, unfortunately, some kids tend to think that they are kind of immune to the legal side of things. However, that is not the case. It just, the severity of the crime, obviously that we can hold them accountable for has changed, but it does not exemplify them from being held accountable. So we'll touch on a few things as far as that's concerned. All right, so cell phones and social media. Smartphones nowadays have internet access and access to thousands of apps available to people of all ages. Most smartphones can be used on just Wi-Fi, regardless of whether or not they are hooked up to a carrier. This is something that I've found, especially in our older generation. They will give their old cell phone to their grandchild to play with, and what they don't understand, and Mike knows this probably as well, as we go to a lot of 911 hang-ups, those phones are still operable. If that phone has Wi-Fi capability, kids can still access the internet, even if it's not hooked up to Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, those carriers. As long as it can access Wi-Fi, they can get on whatever they want. They can download whatever apps they want, things like that, as well as make phone calls. So I've seen that quite a bit where parents are not aware sometimes that their kids are still having access to apps and internet and things like that, because they think that the phone is no good because it's not connected to anything. So I wanted to talk about the importance of paying attention to what children are doing on their cell phone, and how crucial it is. For example, knowing who they're talking to, what they're searching on the internet, as well as what apps they're using. So some things that I've run into between the last 2 school districts I've been in is kids are playing, for example, Roblox, where they have access to, they can chat on there. It's basically like a chat room. They may not know who they're talking to. Some parents didn't even know that that was a function of the game, the capability of being able to talk to other adults or whoever may be on that platform at the time, as well as, what is the content of the game? Is the game violent? Are they learning things on this game that maybe at 7 years old they shouldn't be learning? These are things that I think parents are not always cognizant of, because they've heard, their friend is playing it or this kid is playing it, and they just kind of trust that the game is okay because somebody else is playing it. So that's something that I try to make parents aware of, especially when I'm having conversations with them at school. And the last thing, so something else we should discuss are safety tips with our children on protecting their personal information, not sharing photos of themselves with people they don't know, things like that. We were just talking before this started about, I guess there's an app out there now where people can take pictures of themselves and actually alter their appearance to make themselves look younger. Apparently that is a thing. I personally, I've not seen that, but that's scary. That's something that if I were a parent, that's something I would be extremely, extremely worried about, is just knowing that capability is out there and that, people can essentially make themselves whoever they want to be and have a picture to go along with it. We've always kind of understood that you can be whoever you want to be on the internet. Is, you know, you kind of create your own persona. But then you attach a picture that's altered, and it completely raises the bar, I think, personally. So, and something that I always tell people is to remind your child or your children that their cell phone is a privilege. I can't tell you the amount of times, not even just at school, but, you know, I'll go to a call and, you know, it's a juvenile issue involving a child who's out of control because their cell phone got taken away. So, you know, it's a simple give and take. If you do the dishes, I'll give your cell phone back. But the child wants to stand and argue and say, you know, but it's my phone. So I'll ask them, do you pay the bill? And, you know, most of the time I do get some smart remarks, shockingly. But most of the time, well, no, you know, mom pays for it or my grandma pays for it. Okay, well then that cell phone is theirs. It's a privilege for you to use that cell phone that they gave you, but they also have the right to take it back. So that's something else that I like to tell kids is that you can, if you're doing everything right on your phone and, you know, your parents don't have a reason to take your phone away, then I don't think it's even going to be a thought in their mind. But the second you start using it inappropriately, they have every right to take it away. And I'm not going to come into their house and tell them that they have to give it back to you because they don't. It's a privilege. So that's another thing that I like to, you know, remind kids of every once in a while. So here's a couple popular social media apps right now. I know a lot of them we've heard of. So there's TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, WhatsApp, Be Real, and Discord. Discord I had never heard of until last year, and I still to this day can't tell you what it is. I've had probably 10 students explain to me what it is, and I still don't get it. I don't know how popular it is still, but it still comes up in conversation every once in a while. Some of the things, or some of the important things is to know, you know, what goes on within each one of those apps. So obviously with, you know, TikTok and Instagram, you've got direct messaging, as well as sharing videos and photos, things like that. Making parents aware of, you know, that those apps do have direct messaging capabilities is huge. And with your child having a phone and having that privilege to have it, I think as a parent, you also have the right to go through those apps, go through their direct messages, go through, you know, what they're posting on there, and do it from their phone. And the reason I say that is because there's places on their phones that they can hide these things. You know, obviously if I'm going to post something I don't want my mom to see, I'm not going to post it on the account that she follows. You know, I'm going to save it and put it on another account. Because apparently now students are making fake accounts. They have one that their principals can see, and they have ones that their friends can see, and not parents, and, you know, things like that. So, I learned from our principal at Livonia that he also has a fake account so that he can follow their fake accounts and still see their stuff. Because they add whoever they want to add. So it's a great idea. And, you know, they're always one step ahead. But just the fact that we have to do that nowadays is just mind-blowing. But the other thing with Snapchat wreaks havoc. We all know that. It creates issues not only in school but at home, things like that. Kids are adding people on Snapchat that they don't even know. They're getting random, you know, I just dealt with it today. We're getting random inappropriate photos from people they don't know. They don't know if it's an adult. They don't know if it's another kid. They don't know who these people are. One thing that's also on Snapchat is the My Eyes Only folder. So My Eyes Only, it's a hidden folder that is password protected within Snapchat that kids can hide pictures, videos, drafts, things like that they have not shared. But they can save things that have been shared with them and they can save things that they themselves have made and maybe not sent on Snapchat but sent elsewhere and didn't want to keep in like their camera roll or something like that, where it's, you know, mom and dad can get into the camera roll, things like that. Sorry, I thought I saw a hand up. So,
I've also heard about Snapchat like getting hacked and like people being like approached like I will release all these like
Yep.
pictures like.
Oh yeah, yeah. So people.
If you don't do this.
Yep. People will they'll try and exploit kids all the time. Whether they actually have these pictures or not, obviously we don't know. But you know, think about it. You know you did something bad, and then all of a sudden you get this hacker, and now it's just sheer panic. So now you have to tell your parents, things like that. So it's just there's just so many ways that people they do these things to kids, and you know, we can tell them until we're blue in the face, but unfortunately it still happens every single day. So another, you know, obviously Facebook Messenger, for direct messaging, WhatsApp is a little strange too, because you can basically disguise your number, like it creates a number for you, so it's not even your real number texting them. And then things that I've seen with this is that you know, parents will call because their kids are getting bullied by, you know, this person, and when I try to call that number, it doesn't go to anything. So unfortunately, the likelihood of me or somebody else finding out who's responsible for the messages or the calls or whatever they're getting, it's very slim to none that I'm going to be able to actually figure out who it is, because you can be so anonymous on that app, unfortunately. So,
Morgan.
yes.
One of the other things that we've had come up is the kids' location. Most of the kids don't turn their locations off on those, and some of the younger kids don't even know that's a thing, and the parents don't know it's a thing. But on many of these apps, people that follow them know exactly if they're at Pizza Land having pizza, or if they're at the game, or if they're here and they're there, which is scary. Also, we've had where like you may think like the streaks that the kids do, like, you know, and you may think that the streak is with their friend Johnny down the road that you've known their family for generations, because when you look at it, that's what it is. But if you go in and see the contact information, it doesn't match, and it actually is maybe someone that's an adult or someone that's not a safe person. So you really gotta, so if you see that your kid's doing a long streak or communicating a lot and it says it's Johnny, don't always trust that it's Johnny. You know, really like look and make sure that it is, because we've had that, which is pretty.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a couple, these are a couple parental control apps that I found when I was looking online. Most of that, I mean, you do have to pay for these ones. Some of them are better than others. So the first one, Net Nanny, it's about $60 a year. It allows for location tracking as well as location history. So like, not only can you see where they currently are, but you can also track where they've been. So it kind of like leaves a footprint of where they've been throughout the day. You can set the child's screen time. So I know a lot of times parents will take phones away at say 8 o'clock. Well, at 11, when mom and dad go to bed, kids will sneak downstairs and take their phone back because they're like, oh, they're sleeping and I know where they put it. So they'll end up back on it. So you can set the screen time. It allows you to monitor apps that are being downloaded, and you can also add filters to the apps that they can search and download as well. You can do the same thing for content screening with social media apps. The drawback is you cannot monitor calls or text messages with that app. I don't even know how to say that one, Kaspersky Safe Kids. So that was $15 a year. You can track location with the paid version, and that one also doesn't monitor calls or texts. They all had pretty good reviews. I think the last one had the best out of all of them, and with that one, Android users still have the option to monitor calls and texts and view content. So if you are an Android user, that sounds like it would actually be a pretty good app to use as far as being able to monitor what your kids are doing on their phone. It seems like a lot of it gets forwarded to your phone, which is awesome, probably through this app. I have been an Apple user for the last like 12 or 15 years, so I am completely clueless when it comes to Android anything, but for the most part, it seems like this one would be the best bet if you have a Samsung or an Android. So. All right, so these are some of the consequences of inappropriate phone usage, and I do encourage people to obviously share this with their kids, because I know, sometimes they don't believe that anything really could fall on them because they're kids. That is obviously that's not the truth, and also a lot of kids don't understand that the things that we do as kids can follow us into our adult life, obviously. So my first example, I have effects on adult life. So I put career on there. Obviously when I applied at the sheriff's office, if I, on my Facebook page, if I'm sharing, things that are inappropriate or, things like that, obviously if the investigator that was doing my background stumbles upon these things on my Facebook page or my Instagram or something like that, probably going to raise some red flags for him, I would imagine. It's certainly going to generate more questions, and maybe not necessarily questions that you're going to want to answer, 7 years later after you posted it. Kids may not believe that people go through those things, but obviously we know they do. And I also I put pistol permit on there as well. Obviously for some people that's an extremely important thing and a right that they want to exercise when they get older. And with the new background investigations that we have to complete in order for people to get their pistol permit, that involves us going through 3 years worth of social media. So what people don't understand is we have people that work for us in our civil division that will literally meet with you and thumb through 3 years worth of social media, each outlet. So we're going to go through Facebook, we're going to go through Instagram, we're going to go through all of those things. And I don't think kids understand that this may be something at 21 that is very important to them, is having their pistol permit, and it's also something that it can hold you back from getting because of choices that you made when you were younger, and maybe didn't really think through. Criminal repercussions. I listed a few felonies that could, kids obviously, they're sending inappropriate photos, things like that. They think that just because they're sending it, I'm 15 and I'm sending it to my boyfriend that's 15, or, things like that. They think that just because they're both 15 that they can't get in trouble for doing things like that. That is not true. And these are things that I've tried to explain to students myself, is even if it's not you in the photo, but you have it on your phone, you can still get in trouble. It doesn't have to be you sending the picture. It could be as simple as you possessing the picture. And it could be that this got sent to your friend, and then your friend got mad at this person, so now they're sending it to all their friends. It turns into a big spider web of issues for a lot of people, that can all be avoided, obviously, if kids just understood what can really happen should they get caught sending or possessing inappropriate photographs. And then, obviously the social repercussions that come from inappropriate phone usage, the loss of friends, the amount of times that we've got, bullying obviously is a huge issue. And a lot of it's unfortunately happening on the phone and on social media. And then isolation. You know, I remember when I was in school, you know, if my mom knew that I was hanging around people that were not making great choices, guess what? I didn't get to hang out with them anymore. So imagining being the person who is not making great choices and having all of my friends taken away from me, you know, that alone would make me think twice, I guess, before making some of the choices that I would have made. So, all right, so I got on there. Any questions for right now? All right.
So the pistol permit thing has actually been struck down by appeals court.
Oh, cool.
For now.
Okay.
I don't think that's gone forever.
Okay.
But
They
as of
did.
right now, we're not
Good.
allowed to go into people's histories.
Good.
But I think they're gonna reintroduce that.
Yeah.
But I think once you got your pistol permit, if you started posting stuff inappropriate, and that came to light, then you could have your pistol permit
Under
revoked
review.
because of, so.
Yeah, it's a huge thing, and I know when we found out the involvement that social media and pistol permits were gonna have, everyone was like, oh man, we gotta go through that much, because I mean, a lot of people have social media nowadays. It's just everybody uses it, so it's just making sure everybody is using it appropriately, I guess, is the biggest thing. So, well, thank you.
We've also had kids that, like their parents take their phone, and they don't seem really mindful because they have other phones that are up in their room
Yeah.
that they can still access. Whether it's grandma's old phone or their old phone or some other old phone that was in like the cabinet or one of their friends have it. So like just because you think you took your kid's phone that they aren't accessing anything, any other source, almost lots of kids have
Yes.
extra phones.
I was gonna say the same thing, like, some good kids do some dumb things, I mean, like some of us sitting in the room right now, like, you know, the idea of fake phones, like they put, when the students go, right, like some good friends of ours that would hold their child accountable, and they had a fake phone that they put in the case and handed it to their parents when they went to bed. So they're just handing their parents a fake phone, is what
Yeah.
came to light years later. So,
Yeah.
that's when they came to light. A quick question for you, like, having been about Morris and Maloney so far, I think good teaching is the art of stealing a lot of times, like, are they doing things programmatically that you think are, like, every school should be doing this?
As far as like educating kids on the
Yeah,
phones?
educating kids, because I think education is so much more important than the accountability and punishment, it's a part of it, but teaching it well tends to be us where we wanna go, because it's the best chance.
I think, I mean, as far as like my involvement from this perspective, I would love to have that conversation with kids and really, you know, kind of tell them, you know, what the repercussions can be and things like that. Maybe not as in depth as this. You know, obviously having that conversation I think is huge. And I did find, you know, obviously I teach DARE. So I tried a lot during DARE last year at Mount Morris to incorporate conversations like that, because I just noticed that, you know, it is such almost a distraction throughout the day, having the phones, and I want to try and find positive ways to incorporate them into things, but finding that I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I think again just reiterating the consequences with the kids, but also, you know, educating them on how to make better decisions, I think would be huge, and I think it's a work in progress. Yeah.
And we also have kids that we work with that are like addicted to them, like hardcore
Yep.
addicted to them.
Yes.
Where they
Can't come to school
can't
because
go to
they
school
can't
because
function
they are
without technology.
So addicted to them, no different than it was if it was a substance going into their body.
Yeah.
You know, where we've gone out to try and, you know, address the truancy, and all electronics have been taken, and they found a phone from a friend or someone, and they're over in the bushes, and a neighbor trying to get on their Wi-Fi to be able to access
Yes.
it.
Because
So,
mom
like-
cut the Wi-Fi at their own house.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the other piece that I think people really need to have more conversations on. It's something that kids really are becoming addicted to, just like the video games and other stuff, but,
Yeah.
and it's kind of, for a few of the kids that we've been working with, it's debilitating.
It
Like,
is.
they, are struggling.
Mhm.
Kids are getting cell phones younger and younger now, right? And so I think, Dr. Patty had a good point. We have to really teach them responsibility. And you can do that through the parent controls and the monitoring programs. There are so many out there. In the family guide that I provided at the front, there are some that are free to families and some you can pay for. So I guess it's just looking at what you need, what you want, if you choose to do a parent control program. I personally use Family Link, and so I just wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about Family Link. It is a free program through Google. I have a 14-year-old daughter. And so at 12, we decided to let her have a phone, but we were comfortable putting dynamic, responsibilities in there, limits, boundaries, and I was really felt passionate about that because there's a lot of scary things out on the internet. And so I use it as a teach piece with my child. And I find that it's been really positive so far. So the Family Link is through Google, and the only different thing is your child has to have a Gmail account that's connected to your Gmail account. And you can do it by an Android, Apple, Chromebook, laptop, and you get connected by your phones and your emails. And so I have mine set up where my daughter has to ask permission to get an app. I don't let her do Snapchat. I don't let her do Instagram. But I do let her do a couple. I approve them. I can block things for her through my phone. She has to ask permission. I set limits. So one of the things, I shut her phone down at 9 p.m. at bedtime, and then it wakes her up at 6 a.m. for her to get ready for school. We have a 3-hour limit during the day, so it shuts off automatically. She loses time. If she doesn't manage that time well, it shuts off. And then she doesn't have any more privileges for the day. So it teaches her discipline to monitor herself, because a lot of times we're finding kids just want to constantly be on it, right? They're getting addicted to it, as we've been talking about. So I find that the parental controls have been really helpful with that. I'm not one of those parents that always go through her phone, but I'm through teaching the responsibility and the limits and the boundaries, I feel comfortable letting her have some freedom in some of those choices. She's going to make mistakes, but I also want to make sure that she can be taught some of those things and have some self-control. So I find the Family Link very helpful, and she's very responsible, and I'm just so happy with that program. But like I said, there's a lot listed in there. There's a lot of choices, and you can wean your children off. I think they go up to about age 18. There's also like a location tracker on there, so you can see where your child is when they're not with you, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, so when they asked me to come in, I kind of just segueing onto the idea of, or piggybacking on the idea of privacy and safety. And although this started, 5 years ago or so, where we adopted the curriculum for common sense education, it was still happening. Like, what we found is a lot of the things that we implement through common sense education and common sense media were happening, but now we're just doing them in a structured fashion, right? So that's good, because we've always known that there was a concern. So I just shared some things with you that you might want to take a look at home if you're not aware. So we landed on common sense education. There were probably 6 of us who were really diving deep into it. Our current 2 tech integration specialists were doing it. The 2 library media specialists, myself and Jess Mucci, who's the middle school librarian, and some administrators as well. So we looked at several curriculums, and we decided on common sense education. We really liked their tenets, and we liked the research backing it. So media balance, online privacy, digital footprint, communication, cyberbullying, and news and media literacy. These will span all K through 12, okay? If you link in here, just so you know, if you want to scan it at home, if you want to look further, this will give you the overview of common sense. Most of you probably know common sense media at this point. If you don't, you probably want to look at it anyway. because it gives you a lot of information. So you can't necessarily log in to actually utilize the lesson plans, but if you scroll down on here, you can get in and see, you can get a sample, a taste of what the lesson plans look like and what the curriculum is about. So I just wanted to show you that to make you aware of it. And this link here is basically the research behind the Common Sense Media Program. So if you want to know kind of what was behind it and what was one of the main reasons we selected it, that'll help you. And then finally down here, so this is pretty simple, this is just a link here, this will link and you can scan it. Keep your eye open for the principal's newsletter each month or every couple of months, I'm not sure, because at the very bottom, our tech integration specialist will always share, wow, it's a long one, a link to a digital citizenship tip, and that will come directly from Common Sense, okay? So just some things to keep in mind for you that you can use. So that was a pretty quick rundown of it, which is probably what you need. And then I did want to just address AI a bit, because I'm sure that's something you're all maybe thinking of. We're all thinking about it right now. The first thing I want to tell you, which is actually at the bottom, one thing we really like to let the kids know, something I've been saying to the kids is that, you know, AI is at its best when you are at your best. It's not going to give you anything really good unless you are really putting the work in on your own as well. And it's really AI, if we look at it, we think of it as an electric bike, not a Roomba. So it's going to give you, it's going to enhance things, it's going to push you further, but it's not going to clean your floor for you without you even doing anything. So you have to remember that. Right now we're taking a cautious but optimistic look at it. We are not looking at the gotchas as much as we're modeling behaviors for kids. Because at this point, within the school district, they're not even accessing things that are generative AI text pieces that you have to link into. The really good ones like Bard and ChatGPT, they're not using those on their own at school because we're protecting their privacy, because they're not Ed Law 2D compliant yet, and we don't know where their information will go. And, you know, that can lead to a whole host of things. And I talk to the kids about that too. Like, you might be signing up for these at home in your own accounts, but be aware. I mean, you don't want to go and look at your credit report, you know, 4 years from now and find that someone's opened like 3 accounts in your name, because that can happen. Okay, those are the kind of things that can happen. Might not, probably won't, but it could. So be aware of those things. So this came from EduTech, and I think it really sums up really well kind of what we're looking at. This gives you a little idea of how it works. When we're working with students, like in Ms. D'Amato's class, we're really teaching them about how is this happening, what is going on. And what really worked for them was the progressive story idea, where you know, it's really just looking at what was last said and thinking what could come next, what could come next. And it doesn't always pick the top find, because you wouldn't get 3 different answers from ChatGPT if it did that. It's really got a huge algorithm that's making it really seem kind of human, which we have to remember it's not. It's not a thinker, it's a mimicker. Okay, so we can use it really well for personalized learning and adapting materials, productivity, efficiency. Efficiencies, teachers have really found it's been good for. Clerical tasks, feedback is great. You know, if you're gonna write something that you need to present to somebody and you want some feedback on your writing, that's a good thing to do. Pop it in there and get some feedback. Creating and supplementing content. So what I really like right now is modeling best practices. Keeping our data safe is using this with students right now, since they can't really get into it in school. What we can do as teachers and staff is model good use. Like, what is a good idea? How is this gonna elevate what you're doing? And I recently did this with Mr. Sang's seniors. They're working on their senior projects. We really wanted to get them really invested in their topic. Now, it has to hit with British literature somehow, or to connect to Britain. So it can be tricky to find books and topics that they like. So, because they'll like a topic, but it might not be necessarily British. But with Bard, we realized if I was asking it a question, can you please find me some really, you know, excellent novels that are written by a British author based on, you know, totalitarian government and Big Brother. I use that one because that's a simple one that they're looking at anyway. And of course, 1984 came up, Via's Vendetta, and also the one, oh gosh, I can't remember his name, but he was our it doesn't matter, 3 really good ones, never let me go, that was what it was. So I knew these were all good ones, but then as we did this, we actually did this with the kids. They would give us their topic idea, we'd pop it in. We were using our information. But this brought to light all the hallucinations. Okay, ChatGPT, Bard, they hallucinate, they make mistakes. And you really have to be aware of that. So they would share books that were not actually even books. They had the cover, but it was a different author, doesn't really exist. It was really crazy. Or later on, I'd be like, those are like American authors. And I'd ask it, are you sure you just use British authors? And it would say, oh, I am so sorry. I did make a mistake. So this has been a really good learning experience. And we did find some really amazing books that I think the kids are really excited by. So they got to see the pros and the cons. And they realized this is a lot more work than you think it's going to be. It's not just it's going to give me the world. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're modeling it, and we're trying to tell them to really think about that privacy and the biases and look for that. So when other groups have done it, we've printed off things and said, hey, what's the problem with this? What do you think? Look up those same things we've always done. Check your claim, check your source, check the image. Be thinking about these things. So we are in uncharted territories, and we're going to do our best to stay on the edge of this and keep up with it the best we can, instead of kind of like letting it just happen. So that's our goal. So questions, thoughts, concerns? We should be addressing. No? Okay. Thank you.